So if you're given the opportunity, would you rather be born in like today's modern day society or back then and fought for women's rights as you have?
Oh, gee, that's a really good question. I think probably still then, because back then it was so exciting in the sense that there was so much that required drastic change. And that may be the case now, but I don't see it in the same way having lived then. So I think what was incredibly exciting but terrifying was the amount of change that was required and the amount of hatred and abuse and violence that was directed at you for raising questions that we think are just taken for granted now. Like, I would be walking along the street and just have a badge on and people would spit on me. I got thrown off trams. I used to ride a motorbike and I had cars trying to run into me because I had, rights for women on the back of my motorcycle helmet. So it was kind of terribly scary in some ways, but it was also exciting because you saw really dramatic changes. You saw a government that brought in equal rights for women and changed laws and brought in services that just didn't exist before. Whereas now we have, I think, a really good body of laws. They're not always followed, but hey, they're there. And we've got services that are very broad. They're not well funded, but they're there. So in that sense, it felt like being part of a really important time in history. Probably in the same way that people were involved in, the Black Rights movement and getting the vote and getting full citizenship felt like there are things still to be done, but that was a really important bridge to cross. So, yeah, I think then.
Were your family and friends and the people around you supportive of your feminism views, like your dad?
Well, my dad, no. My father had very strange views, but they were not strange for the time. He believed that I should leave school at 14, the day I turned 14, and I did. And I got a job immediately. And he thought any education of a woman, of a girl, after the age that they can work was a waste, because all they are going to do is really get married and have children, and so they don't really require an education. And so I'm one of that generation that left school on the day she turned 14, and I never went back. So all of you girls are better educated than I am at this stage.
When you first started at Wire, what were the goals? Like, did you just have goals and stuff?
Well, I didn't actually work for Wire. I saw my role in making certain that once all the women decided how Wire was to be set up and how it was to be run, I saw my role was to go within the government and make certain that the promise was carried out, that there was funding provided for the setting up of the service itself, so they can employ staff, get a premises and pay for the phone lines and all of the things that's required when you've really got to deliver a service to women. You asked earlier about my friends and my family. I don't know how you know you're a feminist, but it just happens that you do know at some point. And it's usually something happens to tip you over the edge with it. And I think it was when I was looking for a job when I was 14, I was sent to a psychological assessment place about what sort of job I might be ready for at 14. And so they put me through a whole lot of tests in the morning and the man came out and said, "Look, you're pretty smart. Do you think you could go back to school?" And I said, "No, that's not an option." He said, "Well, there's no trade for a woman or a girl, so the only thing that we can offer you to do is to go and work as a junior sales girl at George's," which was a very exclusive store that's now closed in Melbourne. And then I realised at 14 that there was different choices for boys than there were for girls. and I already had a bit of a view about that because of my dad.
What would you like to see happen for women in the future?
I'd really like to see women to be absolutely equal with men in every way, and that is to be 50% of elected representatives at federal and state and local government. I'd like to be able to see women be able to earn exactly the same amount of men for doing exactly the same amount of work. I'd like to see low-paid women, because the lowest paid workers in our society are women. I'd like to see them get better wages for the caring work they do, looking after the aged and childcare. I would really love to see that private industry, that is the banks and the boards and all of these companies that control the share market, that they have 50% of women on their boards instead of now only being sometimes less than 10%. And that means some of the decisions that were made by companies would be perhaps a bit more empathetic to what women want or need.
Do you think WIRE can develop further?
I think WIRE's done an absolutely great job. When you think about it, it's survived government after government. It has, it's been seen to be a responsible and necessary service. It has grown from the day that it was first instituted in 1983, given government funding. Its annual reports clearly show that there is the need for a service such as WIRE, and it keeps responding to new challenges within information provision. They keep working in areas and finding new ways of being able to assist women with information. And they've got so many good volunteers, and I think that WIRE will do as well as it's doing now for long as it wants to, and it should be supported by government and the community and the way that it is, in continuing.